So what's up, everybody? Today's gonna be kind of a driving video, the first impressions, I guess, of the belltech lowering kit for my Colorado. I did drive it for a little bit yesterday, but I didn't really do anything with it. I kind of just drove it around to get the suspension to settle, and that's about it. So I'm gonna actually drive it a minute just to see what it's like. As far as if I would rate the installation out of 1 to 10, if you're doing it by yourself, it's about a 6 or a 7, just because the rear, you have to manipulate the leaf springs and the rear axle at the same time, and that's not very easy to do. So it would help to have help if you can get it. I didn't have help, so I kind of had to wing it and do it myself. But the front's easy to do by yourself. It's just taking the coil out, taking the strut assembly out, undoing this, taking the stock spring out, putting it on the new belltech strut, and you're off to the races. The rear is where it gets complicated if you're doing it by yourself, just because you have to, like I said, manipulate all kinds of stuff at one time. The leaf springs are kind of heavy. They look heavier than they really are. I didn't expect them to weigh as much as they did. I figured they'd weigh just a little bit less, but I mean, they got to hold up the weight of the truck, so I guess they can't be real soft. But I apologize for the glare. I don't have a mount, so I'm having to hold this with my hand. So that's why if you're seeing the from down a low approach, I'm also not trying to make it obvious that I have my phone in my hand. It definitely handles better. It handles like it's on rails. I wouldn't be scared if I had the right tires and the right wheel size and everything. I wouldn't be scared to take this on an autocross course. Now, granted, it's not made for that, but because I don't even have a rear sway bar, so it would help if I did have one. I don't know if these trucks are even optioned to have one. I don't even know if an aftermarket company makes one. So that would definitely help tremendously. Oh, okay. And people like to use the blinkers at the last minute. But it definitely drives different. I'm used to being up high because I had the leveling kit on it. Now I'm kind of down low, so I would have to get used to that. As far as response, the steering is very quick to respond. It is electric power steering, so there's no lag. Like I said, it is easy to drive. I recommend lowering your truck if you, for one, have some kind of a hip replacement, or you've had some kind of hip issues, or you've had knee issues, or you can't climb. Because I literally can just slide into my truck now. Used to, I had to kind of leap to get in it, and I would kind of jump to get out of it. I don't have to do that anymore. That's one reason why I wanted to lower it, because I didn't want to put steps on my truck. I don't like steps. I think they're ugly. They kind of they fuck up the body lines of a truck, especially with mine being an extended cab. It definitely helps to have it lowered, because it's just easy to get into, and like my mom does drive this occasionally whenever she feels the need to. So I don't want her to have to jump to get in anything either. But just know that because the rear suspension is a leaf spring, unless you take any of the leaves out, it's going to be kind of stiff, because it is kind of stiff now. They do that so that it helps when you actually want to load the bed with something, or if you want to haul something. I think these trucks are rated to tow, if they're outfitted correctly, they can tow, I think, around 5,000 or 6,000 pounds. I'm sure somebody on YouTube will tell me I'm wrong, and they will tell me the real number. I don't know the number. I don't care what the number is. I don't tow, so it has nothing to do with me. It's meaningless to me. Like with my truck, the way it sits now, it's the perfect candidate to get LS swapped or supercharge the engine that's in it, or do something like that, just because now I have the handling characteristics and it's nice and sleek. It's not really a Cyclone, because the Cyclones were all-wheel drive. This is not. You can lower the the all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive trucks with this kit. It's just you'll have to fight around the CV axles and all that, and I don't have that, so I don't have that problem. problem. I don't have to fight around CV axles. The front suspension is still kind of soft. It is a little firm, but it's not as bad as the rear. So just take that into consideration when you buy this kit. It's not going to be nice and luxurious of a ride like it used to be. So just know that going into it. But overall, it kind of drives like I expected it to. When I lowered a Tahoe, my 2005 Tahoe, which it's not on YouTube because I don't have videos of it anymore because I deleted all of them. I lowered it with a Max Track lowering kit, and it was, I think, 2 inches in the front, 4 inches in the rear, and it drove somewhat the same, but it was a rear coil spring vehicle. This is not rear coil spring. This is a rear leaf spring. The front is a strut. So, and the front of that Tahoe wasn't even coils at all. It was a torsion bar. But, you know, anytime you lower a vehicle, it's not going to handle like it used to from the factory. Just throw that out there. Don't assume that it's going to drive like a Cadillac and float down the road. It's not. It's going to be bumpy. You're going to feel a lot of the bumps. You know, it's not going to drive like a Cadillac. It's not going to drive like it's on air. It's going to drive like it's on rails and like you're in a buckboard wagon. So if you're considering it, that's the stuff you need to think about and feel like if it's worth it. Now, granted, it may be different if it gets broken in, but there's really nothing to break in. The leaf springs have already been broken in. I would say the front springs have, because they carry a lot of weight. They carry the engine and all that stuff. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't really care about it. I'm 26, so I can handle a lot of the rigidness, I guess. A lot of older people can't if they have back problems, but that's just stuff they need to think about. They need to ride in a lowered vehicle before they assume that you know, it's not going to be that bad, so that way they can make that assumption and that choice. Because once you decide on it, you pull the trigger on it, you own the kit. And then if you want to return it to belltech or whoever you buy a kit from, you're going to have to pay to ship it back and a restocking fee. So, and I had to wait about 2 or 3 weeks for mine. So just know you're going to have to wait a good bit to send it back for them to get your money, or for you to get your money back. But all in all, it's not too bad. It handles a lot better, which is what I wanted. And there's not really any body roll anymore. It used to have a lot of body roll, especially since I lifted it up higher. Now, I apologize for the glare, but my tint's not as dark as I like it to be, so I got to fix that. But yeah, if you're assuming it's going to ride like a race car, it does ride like a race car. It's very stiff, very unforgiving. The front has a little bit more cushion just because it's the coil spring, like I said, but the rear, nope. But it'll drive really well, I'll give you that. If you're wanting something that'll handle and can kind of eat up corners, if you have the right tire and all that stuff, this might do it. Now, I'm not saying it would outperform a GT500 on the track or a Lamborghini. I'm not saying that. But if you want to have something that'll be fun with, and you can go and cruise around on back roads and try to take it to some autocross courses and do okay, then this is a kit for you. If you're wanting something that you want to tow with, and you know, you want something that's got a nice ride still, don't modify your truck at all. Yeah, because see, I just went over a kind of a dip in this dirt road I'm on, and the front suspension is not bad, but the rear, that's where it makes a difference, because you feel that bump immediately. So, and the suspension is stiff for a reason, because if it's really soft, you're going to have a lot of body roll, you're going to have a lot of that kind of stuff. So with it being a little stiffer, it'll help it to where it minimizes that kind of stuff. And if the springs are too soft and you try to take a corner, it will lift the wheels off the ground, and you don't want that. At least the rear, not the front. So, and with me putting this kit on, the front does have some camber now, just because of how I've lowered it. So you're gonna have to get an alignment. It's recommended by everybody that does suspension work, that offers a suspension, whatever, whether it's lift kit, lowering kit, doesn't matter what it is, you have to get an alignment. There's no way around it. If you try to run without it, you'll wear out the tires, you'll wear out a lot of suspension components. So more or less the tires will wear out. But Yeah. It was a nice kit. There were some things that I wish that the instructions were more clear about. Like they don't give you specific tool sizes like sockets and wrenches and whatnot. They don't tell you specific what you need. A lot of companies do that. This belltech does not. They just say you have to have a socket set and a wrench set that goes up to this size. But I fixed that for everybody because I made a list of what sizes you need for the front and what sizes you need for the rear, and I have put them both in my previous video, which I haven't uploaded yet. But yeah, I've made that the easiest I possibly can make it, aside from doing it for you. So if you're wanting to know, there you go. I have all the tool sizes you're going to need. Some are in metric, some are in standard, or I've converted them to both. I have it in metric or standard. That way, you know, if you have one or the other, you'll know what you need. Most of the bolts on this truck are metric just because it's made in Mexico. These trucks aren't American as people think they are. So, yeah. There you go. But my first impressions, I know I've blabbered on a little bit and kind of beat around what the video is actually about, but I think it's a good kit. It's really the only lowering kit you can get for these trucks. There's no other companies that make one, so you're stuck with this kit if you want to lower it, unless you have an engineering degree and you have the capacity to do it, make your own stuff. But I don't have that ability. I don't have an engineering degree, nor do I have a CNC machine or any of that stuff. So, you know, I have to buy what somebody else has done the R&D for. So there you guys go. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys later.